Welcome in our new series of cell evangelization here at Transfiguration. It's a pleasure to be joining all of you as we begin this series of videos focusing on the transcendental of beauty. When I announced this theme for our parish of looking at beauty this year, I was approached by a number of different people saying, "Father, are there any particular movies you'd recommend that are well known for their beauty?" It's not a secret that I'm a film buff and I very much enjoy studying cinema. I'm standing today in my home theater here at the rectory, and you can see a few of the great box sets that I have collected over the years behind me. And as I was thinking about how I might honor that request, it occurred to me that using this video series would be a great way of doing it. But we're going to do our video series a little bit differently than normal. Rather than having every video be focused on me, I can hardly say that a close-up picture of me is really a great sign of beauty in the world. I'm going to be doing a series of video essays discussing 4 different films and how they approach the transcendental of beauty, both in their filmmaking as well as in their themes, and how a careful look at those particular movies can help us to come to not only appreciate beauty, but also develop our own understanding with our relationship with God. And so with no further ado, I'm proud to present to you this new video series looking at 4 classic films and how they discuss beauty.
Our hearts are restless until they rest in thee, St. Augustine famously wrote at the start of his Confessions. Few quotes have so perfectly captured the complex nature of humanity and its relation to the divine. Though he lived some 1,500 years before the British officer T.E. Lawrence, Augustine's quote easily could have been describing the famed World War I hero, as depicted in David Lean's seminal Lawrence of Arabia. Few films have attempted or accomplished the kind of epic storytelling mounted by director David Lean and writers Robert Bolt and Carl Foreman, whose film adaptation of the Arabian Campaign stands as not only a breathtaking example of cinematic virtuosity, but a startling consideration of the power of beauty as represented by the desert and our protagonist's destructive attempt to master the beauty of the world.
Oh, thanks, Dryden. This is going to be fun.
Lawrence, only 2 kinds of creature get fun in the desert, Bedouins and gods, and you're neither. Take it from me. For ordinary men, it's a burning, fiery furnace.
No, Dryden. It's going to be fun.
Lawrence of Arabia's camera never fails to recognize the beauty of its settings, whether the vastness of the Arabian deserts or the architecture of early 20th century Cairo. The film's visual language shows beauty as a force that imposes itself upon the world.
Come on, then!
Even the battles are carried out with a strategic wonder that hints at a moral order destined for human advancement and freedom. Yet David Lean's telling of this true story finds its power not merely in a grand aesthetic, but a thematic understanding that the human soul can corrupt such created marvels. Catholic thought on beauty has always held that it is not a value-neutral ornamentation in life, but that it reveals something of God. The Church Fathers, like Augustine of Hippo, recognize beauty awakens a desire for God, provoking a longing and yearning. Peter O'Toole's central performance as T.E. Lawrence shows us a talented man with wit.
Well, I can't make out whether you're bloody bad-mannered or just half-witted.
I have the same problem, sir.
Shut up.
Yes, sir.
Bravery, and grand ideas that are ultimately undone by a disordered self-aggrandizement. Lawrence tastes the beauty of the desert, of the Arabian tribes, of the soldier's valor, but then his pride distorts his approach to that beauty. Lawrence of Arabia is not just a groundbreaking film that combined classical Hollywood filmmaking with then emerging trends of European cinema. It explores the danger of pride and how even when humans are drawn to good things, our fallen nature can cause all to go terribly wrong.
The best of them won't come for money. They'll come for me.
The editing highlights this right away. The revolutionary and famous match cut that initially draws us into the desert is more than just a clever visual pairing. Instead, the transition from the extinguishing match to the rising sun is a metaphysical gesture. Lawrence's small, controllable flame represents his delusional thinking he will be able to master what is to come, when the reality is a cosmic force greater than any of us. Freddie Young's 70mm cinematography regularly places human figures in the wide openness of the desert, revealing humanity's smallness before the overwhelming nature of God's work in creation. In this sense, the camera is revealing the proper relationship between man and beauty. The desert offers an expansiveness to us that we can explore and calls us to be humble, making us see our vulnerability and need for assistance. But Lawrence refuses to heed this call. Marked by hubris, Lawrence relies upon the beauty of his own intellect to achieve what others have deemed impossible.
Go back, blasphemer! But you will not be at Aqaba!
I shall be at Aqaba. That is written in here.
But when he defies the odds time and again, he begins to see himself as the center of the world. A lesser film would reward Lawrence's narcissism, leaving us to see him as the rugged individual that we are to emulate. But not Lawrence of Arabia. It knows and understands the danger of such false understandings. Lawrence's defying of his orders, expanding his mission into unapproved areas, and tempting of fate result in him losing his identity, his purpose.
Who are you? Who are you?
The brilliance that marked his earlier successes now turns toward ugliness, pursuing violence for its own sake and indulging in a false messiah identity. As directed by David Lean, the film starts to lose some of the initial wide landscapes and begins placing its human characters more prominently in the frame, allowing us to see how the desert's beauty is being lost upon them. Men are covered in dust, bloodied, and ragged. The beauty of the natural order is still around them, but they roll in it in a way that leaves them disfigured. The problem isn't that Lawrence is pursuing bad things, because the desert's beauty and the freedom of peoples and the valor of soldiers and even his own talents are all gifts of God. The problem is that he no longer recognizes that the beauty of the created world is meant to point beyond itself towards a higher good.
Give them something to do that can be done, but you? No, they must move mountains for you. They must walk on water.
That's right. That's right. Who are you to know what can be done?
Rather than the desert's dunes or the war's aims humbling Lawrence, they inflate his pride and desire for his own vision to be imposed upon things. The filmmaking recognizes how seductive such a reality is for all of us. Consider how it stages Lawrence's greatest military triumph, the taking of Aqaba. Lawrence and his forces seize the enemy stronghold amidst sweeping cameras and Maurice Jarre's triumphant score. The artillery guns are framed to give the audience a sense that Lawrence and his initiatives will carry on indefinitely towards greater glory. And a lesser film would have used this as its climax, sending its audience out of the theater to pursue its own interests without hesitation. Yet here in Lawrence of Arabia, this serves as a setup for that oft-quoted maxim, pride precedes the fall. Just as we have been seduced like Lawrence by the overpowering nature of beauty to indulge our senses and ambitions, the film spends its final act not on Lawrence's successes, but the failure that results from his earlier accomplishments. All of his dreams of a pan-Arabian movement were a mere mirage of his own making, based on a superficial understanding of the peoples in the land where he is merely a bypasser. The desert itself has not changed. Its beauty and vast power remain exactly the same as before, but Lawrence's pride and ambition come crashing down upon him. the man who once stood so strong and heroically over a people, leading them towards a dream that could never be realized, is now diminished. The talented soul of T.E. Lawrence is broken, as is his body through capture and torture. In the end, he is a shadow of himself, a mere reflection, leaving the desert, and everything has been lost, even his own understanding of himself and of home.
Well, sir, going home.
The human soul is meant to point beyond itself, to be lifted up by beauty, to a contemplation of the divine. Lawrence of Arabia does not set out to offer us a catechetical lesson on the transcendental of beauty, but it stands as a cinematic reflection of how human pride can take something as precious as beauty and distort it. The tragedy of T.E. Lawrence, as portrayed in David Lean's film, is that he is unraveled by his unwillingness to submit to beauty's true power and purpose. Lawrence of Arabia shows the reality of what St. Augustine called the soul becoming curved inward upon itself. In the end, Lawrence is isolated, awaiting a death via motorcycle accident that we, the audience, saw in the opening scene. Empty and stupefied by the grandness of the desert, Lawrence has misread its beauty, and so the film ends not with resolution, but with departure. Lawrence leaves the desert behind, but he does not leave with peace. The landscape that once seemed to promise transcendence has instead exposed the limits of a soul that tried to claim it. Augustine's words remain as the final interpretive key. Lawrence's heart is restless because he has not followed beauty to its proper end.